Hi everyone, welcome today, and today we're just going to be talking. This is our podcast. I'm joined here today by my brother. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, Anthony. If you know me, you know me. I guess I really don't know. Yeah. I guess we're just here to talk.
And I am JJ.danlee. So the way this podcast is going to work is my brother over here has a topic that he's going to discuss, and then we're just going to talk about it.
I have a lot of topics to talk about, but this is I think one of my favorites, just because it definitely gets people questioning about themselves and their place, in the universe, right?
Okay.
You ever just think of life and death, right? Or let's start with death, because I feel like that definitely has a lot of questions in and of itself as a single word. What's the reason behind death? Your face. Your face.
My face is the reason behind death?
No. As I'm talking about death, you seem intrigued, but you also seem
well, I didn't know you were gonna get so dark all of a sudden.
That's what some people tell me, especially when I talk about stuff like this, or even like the universe, or even small things like that. They'll be like, what the heck is he talking about? This is weird. But back to my topic, life and death, right? I guess we can talk about death just because I feel like that's a better topic, in and of itself, like I already said. What do you think is on the other side of death? If you had to put a meaning behind it, what would you think it was?
Are we talking about personally or kind of scientifically?
Let's start with personally, because I feel like that would be very intriguing, especially to you.
Well, personally for me, I do hope there is something after death. Mostly, I do hope. The thing is, nobody really knows, right?
Yeah, it's I feel like it's a question that most likely will never be answered, just because no one come back from death. People can come back from a near-death experience, say they had a heart attack and they got resuscitated and back. That's a near-death experience. That's not death itself.
Yeah. Now, if we're talking about scientifically, there has been studies shown that there is momentary lapses where your brain does a bunch of stuff after you die. So there's definitely a point inside when you die that your mind is firing. Now, what your mind's doing, nobody knows. In a spiritual sense, it could be your soul going away. It could be things happening. Or in a more psychological sense, it's the feeling of your life flashing before your eyes, right?
Yeah.
But who knows how long that could actually be?
I've heard, I listen to, I guess you can say stories of stuff like this. Where somebody, apparently he went to college, right?
Yeah.
But as he's going to college, he lives out his life, right? Has a family, has kids, all that. And then all of a sudden, things start getting strange, like in his story or in his life. He fixated on a light that was being morphed, brighter, darker, being twisted, just being twisted, looking all weird, right?
Yeah.
Demorphed. But as he did that, I guess you can say he fell asleep, but he actually woke up into his real life and found out that he was still in college, but what happened was he accidentally got hit by a footballer, right? Football player.
Yeah.
He got hit, and then he basically had a whole nother life that he thought of but wasn't real. I can't imagine going through that, because definitely doesn't leave your mind in a good space.
I was about to say, I just found the story you were talking about. Apparently, it was a Reddit thread where people talk about their chilling post-mortem type of near-death experiences that are strange. And this guy was talking about on this thread how it took him 3 years to recover through the whole thing, and he pretty much said what you were saying, that he was attacked pretty much by a college football player. It wasn't during a football match. It was that he was assaulted by a football player, which is insane. And it's he had his whole life happen in a single night, right?
Yeah, basically, but basically in a thing, I feel like it was like in the real world, it was like a few hours, but in his like dream, he lived out his whole life, thinking that this is actually what happened, and that I feel like that's kind of scary, just because like that. I guess you can say it's been scientifically proven that that has happened, especially in near death experiences where the brain gives you memories of your life or plays out your life, which is very personal to the person, I feel like. Because, like, you never know what happens after death. We know what could happen in a near death experience, just not after death. See, like after death, yes, there could be several possibilities. Like one is nothingness for trillions and trillions of years, which is, in my opinion, very, very scary. Because like, where does your conscience go? Like your body is done, right? It's not. It decomposes. It goes back and it becomes the earth, right? It goes back into the earth.
What?
But what happens to your conscience? Like,
Well, I think that really just depends on. I think that really just depends on what you think your consciousness is. Because some people, they think it's their brain. Other people would say their soul. So it's kind of a toss up on what you believe. If you think it's a soul, then your consciousness would go somewhere else. No matter what you believe, no matter what you believe, if you believe in some sort of religion or anything, your soul kind of goes somewhere. That's what it says. Now, with going back on the scientific topic, people would think that at that moment where you are dying, your brain has that last jolt of memory. It's like just like how with the story with the guy, how
life.
your whole life or afterlife or whatever is compressed in that single few moments before your brain actually dies. What if it's sort of like a thing that in your mind kind of generates your entire afterlife until whatever the hell the end of the universe is? But
True.
that's just your mind dying.
Which I think that can also be incorporated into sleeping in dreams. You know how you go to sleep, right? Say maybe you have a dream, maybe you don't, but you wake up like say 20 minutes, 10 minutes before your actual alarm, the actual time you want to wake up. So you're like, you know what? I'm gonna go back to sleep for that extra 10 minutes. You go back to sleep and then you dream again, but that dream feels longer than your actual sleep, even though it's compressed into like 10, 20 minutes, right? But you didn't have a dream that whole night, and that whole night seemed quicker than that actual 20 minutes that you got of that dream, right? You get what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
I get it.
See, like with that, I feel like definitely is very strange in and of itself, because the fact that your brain comes up with scenarios in your head and then makes them like last so long to be in such a small time in real life is crazy. It's crazy to me just because like why, you know? You always go back to the question is why? Why this, why that?
The brain is incredibly fascinating. Going on the kind of tangent of talking about how you can have like a long period of time in your brain or like these near death experiences. There's some of these stories where I'm like, how is this kind of possible and how is this happening? Like I was reading right now how a child who had never met dead relatives before had met them in a dream that they'd never met before and described in great detail on who they were. Like they said, this kid had and was very close to death, and they were able to save him. And the first thing he said afterwards was, "I got to meet some people." And then they said, "Oh yeah," and then he said, "They were my great grandmothers who had died years before I was born." And then of course the family's shocked, right?
Yeah, yeah. You know,
But of course, a kid could kind of make it up, so they start asking questions and they start talking about things that the kid shouldn't have known about the people.
which is very surprising, Reasonably they would be shocked. Maybe a little confused on how he would know that.
Like, how does stuff like that happen in general? Like, it's like you imagine someone who actually exists, but you never met them.
See, I feel like that would in some religions that would have an explanation like in their religion, but like let's go to a scientific term.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't think that really really can be proved with science if you think about it. Because like I really don't know how that would specifically happen, especially if you never seen him, met him, or even heard about him. Which maybe he's heard about him a little bit. Maybe he knew he had a grandparents that weren't alive, but they didn't tell him how they look, great details, which would explain how he would know that he would have great grandparents, but not how they would look like, which is very, very shocking. You know, like it's very shocking. I don't think science can prove that. Maybe in some religions, yes, they can prove that. They can prove in their own beliefs and religions, which I'm not, disgracing or any way. I'm just saying that, like, believe what you want to believe.
Thanks for the mid-episode disclaimer on religion. Yeah, no matter what we talk about here, we're definitely not making fun of any religion. We just find them fascinating and to talk about them, if anything. We mean no disrespect by them whatsoever. On another topic at hand, so, death in general. That's one thing. You know what's an even harder thing to talk about that kind of goes hand in hand with death? Life in general.
That is true, and I feel like that definitely incorporates with the the yin and yang symbol, right?
Yin and yang? Yeah.
How there's something, there's always an opposite of another thing.
Yeah, good and evil, light and dark, life and death, yeah.
See, that's definitely, if it doesn't incorporate to the yin and yang, rule or like symbol, I don't think it exists, if I'm being honest. Say like you have a hat, right?
Okay.
You have a black fedora, right? There's the opposite of that, a white fedora, right?
Black and white fedora of the universe. Michael Jackson and Frank Sinatra.
That's crazy. Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
See, or like that, or say you, for example, right?
Yeah, me. I know me kind of well.
Yeah, you, right?
Yeah, me.
Say there's you, and there's another person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not exactly like you. Maybe doesn't talk like you, look like you. That's the yin and yang. Like me and you. Is you're the yin, and I'm the yang. We're two completely different things, but then again, similar in some way.
I don't quite think that's how it works. Mostly because... your example there kind of boggles me a little bit because we are definitely not the opposites of each other. We grew up kind of together. True. And we kind of had a lot of things similar. I wouldn't say we are completely opposites. I think a better example would, maybe not so broadly, would be like ketchup and mustard.
True. I mean, yes, they're opposite, but they're similar in like certain ways. But I guess you can say they're opposite, yeah. I guess that's a better example. Definitely a better example than mine's.
I like your example too. It's just maybe you need to find someone else who's actually the complete opposite of you. But don't ever say their name.
like you and a random person you picked up like you saw on the street. Say, there you go.
Yes, me and Joey Bob Duke.
You and your chip guy.
My chip guy? Oh, hell, we are not opposites.
Okay, so.
That guy is just weird, and so am I.
Okay, Okay, that, I guess so, yeah. So, piggybacking off of your thing of life, it's crazy to think that throughout this whole universe, right? This infinite universe, and so far has not ended. That you are just this tiny little speck, smaller than a grain of salt, smaller than a grain of salt sand, smaller than that in this entire universe. Why?
Well, the universe itself is just huge in general. If you try to think about it, someone's universe, like in a philosophical type of way, someone's universe could be their backyard. Someone's like a dog. a dog that's like never gotten out in real life and mostly is a house pet, their whole world, their whole universe is their house and their backyard. For us humans, that would have been just the Earth if we didn't discover how far and vast space was. So our minds kind of go to unlimited and thinking that our universe is completely unlimited because we're not able to see the entire scope of it. But for some people, the universe is very limited.
Yeah, I've like let me see. I guess I can piggyback on that and like go into like consciousness because we're as far as we know, we're conscious. We're very smart, very intelligent compared to other species on this planet. We're basically the smartest ones here.
Pretty much, yeah.
If you think about it, we're the smartest ones here. But going to like say a dog, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unless you teach it, all it really knows is eat, drink water, breathe, and sleep.
And
And reproduce. Okay. You just blatantly said it. Reproduce. And reproduce, right?
I'm about to say, it's a podcast, man. We can say whatever we want.
Most, I can say most animals live by that code. Maybe have a little fun here and there, but then again,
Eat, sleep, yeah.
but then it all correlates back to that, which I think is just plain survival and keeping the chain going of your, family and stuff like that. But what's to say that they're not conscious? They're just abiding by that code. They don't know nothing else besides that. I would think that, like, if you think about it, that there's at least a few people in this world that are little NPCs that do a thing every single day in the same motion, that are not really conscious thinking about when they're going to die, about life, about these questions that we're asking, right? Or about the whys of the universe.
You could even argue that some of these NPCs would think it would be easier not to think about the entire thing, just because it would put too much stress and stuff on their brains.
True, but
We're just pretty much calling them stupid at this point. That's not what we're saying. It's just saying for some people it's a little easier not to think about this kind of stuff. And for others who are hopefully listening and still listening at this point, like kind of get it and are trying to understand.
See, I would think that those people would have to have come across those questions in their lifetime, Your lifetime is so long, but then again so short at the same time, which is actually mind-boggling to me. That you have such a long life. Say most people have the lifespan of 100 years old until they figure out, like if they have a disease or not, which, sad, if they have a disease or not, or if they unexpectedly die, which is very tragic in and of itself, but like your life is so long, but then again so short. And I'm going back to that question. I keep repeating it because it's like, it's like a question that I never think will be answered, because like life, when you go through life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you say you're going to do something tomorrow, but you never do it, and then that becomes a pattern every day. And be like, I'm going to do that tomorrow. Like, for some people that want to work out, but then again, don't say, like, you know what, I'm going to start this tomorrow, I'm going to do it tomorrow. They go to tomorrow, they don't do it. And then be like, you know what, I'm going to do this tomorrow. Most definitely. Do it tomorrow. Then comes tomorrow. And then be like, and then they say it again, I'm going to do it tomorrow. And it just keeps, like a repeating cycle of, like, you're going to do it, but then you don't do it. And then life goes on like that so fast until you figure out, until you're 30. Until you're 30 and you're like, damn, I wasted a whole 10 years of just saying I'm going to work out, but don't work out. I'm going to do this tomorrow. And then it repeats the pattern.
Well, I definitely think that whole thing, sticking to something like working out or anything maybe even as small as getting up at a certain time, is kind of a question of dedication, and taking that first step is usually hard for someone in general. Now, going back to the whole NPC things, are you saying that people are NPCs unless choosing differently not to be, and then when they make that choice not to be and actually stick to something, they're no longer NPCs? Or do you think no matter what, there's NPCs in the world?
I think no matter what, there is NPCs in the world to a degree, right?
Okay.
It also depends on your definition of an NPC. Like, one person can be like, if you do a certain stuff in your day, you're an NPC. Other people think if you do something else certain in your life, you're an NPC, right? I think it all correlates back to what you believe, right? Where you believe in what you think. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Now, just for the people that don't know, since we're already so far into this conversation, what does NPC mean?
Uh, I feel like I don't know the exact definition to it. I just know that it's like a non-playable character, right? I would think that would be it, right?
So, pretty much someone who is just... so I just looked it up, and you're right, it is a non-playable character. Pretty much a character in, like, a video game. It's a video game term that just does one simple task and has one simple thing, and other than that, just wanders around and doesn't really do anything else. It's pretty much programmed to do just that one thing.
Which goes back to my thing of consciousness is like a dog. Is like a dog could be an NPC, right? He eats, drinks, sleeps, reproduces, and reproduces. Okay, and then does nothing else. Sleeps, like say, keeps doing all those four things or anything in between those four things. That I feel like would be an NPC because it doesn't unless you teach it certain stuff, and then it goes a little bit beyond NPC, but then it always comes back to an NPC because like most dogs do the exact same thing. Yes, they may have preferences, which I think gives them a little more of a consciousness to more than like a fish.
Preferences.
You
mean
know,
preferences?
Preferences. There we go.
There you go.
Okay.
You got you there. Okay.
Okay, so like has more preferences, which gives them more of a conscious, more than like say a fish. Like if you think about it, what a fish does is the exact same thing, but literally does only that. If you think about it.
Well, that kind of goes back to the brain in general because a fish's brain. Can you believe that lizards in general don't have memory?
Yeah. Wait, really?
Lizards don't have memory. Their brain is not able to hold memory. The only thing that their brain is able to do is eat and it cannot remember.
See, I would think that would be an NPC.
There's a different part of the brain that helps it remember. Technically, the word remember what feeds it and when its food's coming. If you have a pet lizard, but other than that, I'm sorry to tell you guys, your reptiles don't have a personal connection with you. They can't. It's literally scientifically impossible.
Scientifically impossible for a lizard to be socially attached. That's actually crazy because why? Why?
Are you saying lizards just in general are NPCs?
Yeah, I would say they are NPCs.
Not just lizards, like reptiles in general.
Fishes are NPCs.
Fish, they're even worse. They can't. A lot of them, especially like goldfish, their memory literally lasts 5 seconds. Dory from Finding Nemo is actually a perfect example of what an actual fish is.
True, except she remembers a little bit of things, just a little bit, and then like that's crazy because I would definitely consider that an NPC. Fishes, maybe, as you can say, Liz, I would definitely consider that NPC because they only do a few things and only those few things. Yes, you can teach them stuff, but I'm almost certain that they're going to forget it in like a week if you don't keep teaching them, keep doing it. They're definitely going to forget it in like a week, which I would call them an NPC, putting it blatantly.
So I'm going to ask you something about humans and human NPCs in general. And it's going to kind of tie in a lot of things that we were talking about here. With death, since they're an NPC and went ahead and did that, do you think that there would be no type of afterlife, scientific or anything for them, just because it was the same thing over and over again, and nothing changed.
Well, that... Okay. So, that would go into what you believe. Say you believe in there's an afterlife. Say there's heaven and hell, right? Obviously, I would feel like an NPC would go to heaven just because they're doing a few things and, there's nothing really bad that they do. So they go to heaven, right? They go to heaven. I feel like it would I would say it would be all based on your belief of what happens in the afterlife, because me and you probably have two different versions of heaven and hell, right? I think it would all just depend on what you believe and what you believe happens after life. So therefore, you would have to think of what NPCs to you do in the afterlife.
Okay. So you're saying that in a religious sense, for NPCs, there is an afterlife.
Depending on what you think is an afterlife, yes.
Good answer for that. And now, we're going to be running out of time soon, so we're going to be giving our final thoughts on the whole thing. Any final thoughts that you can talk about death in general? Or life? Or NPCs? The three things we covered today.
Life and death obviously go hand in hand. Basically, I think the big question with life and death is why. Why? Just simple word, why. I guess you can also tie that in with NPCs is why. Is why and how. I guess with NPCs you can say how. Like how that happens. How does it happen? Why does it happen? And I think that's all for NPCs. I feel like if you met an NPC that does everything every single day, never changes, never really has any preferences, eats the same things, stuff like that, I guess you can try to get them out of their NPC state, try to get them doing more things, get them out, which I think is great. You do that if you want to. But why and how are they like that? Why are they like that, and how are they like that? And with life and death, it goes back to why and how. Like you're very lucky to be born. You're like 1 in a trillion, 1 in a million. Literally 1 in a million. You're very lucky. And I think it all just correlates back to why and how.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. I'm gonna go ahead and give my quick final statements on the whole thing that we were talking about. I in general think that a human or a mammal that has a higher functioning brain where it can remember memory and learn from it is impossible and is impossible. For them to be an NPC is an impossibility. Because the whole thing of an NPC is something that does everything over and over and over again, the same exact thing. So I guess my final thought is I don't think there is human NPCs in the actual definition of NPCs. Now, there are people that are unmotivated and people that do the same thing because that's comfortable for them, which, maybe that's good for them or anything. Yeah, that's kind of my whole thing on the thoughts. So.
Yeah, I could see your way too. But it's all based on what you believe in.
Of course.
What you think, Not here to judge. Just here to give my thoughts, my statement,
Same here. We're just talking and having fun, right?
Having a nice, comfortable chat.
Having a nice, comfortable chat, yeah. Well, everyone, thank you for joining us on our podcast today. We've had a great time, and if you like it, please let us know so we can continue doing it. My name is JJ.danlee, and your name?
Anthony. Oh, yeah, let's go with that. Until we think of a cool name, I guess.
Until you think of a cool name. Also, leave what cool names he can have in the comments below. All right, thank you very much, and have a great day. Podcast out.